Hello everybody, I'm Rusty. I want to welcome you to Island Breeze Tropicals. So today we're going to be having some fun. We're going to learn how to pot up some bromeliad pups. So you know what? The sun is shining, the island breeze is blowing. It's time that you and I got growing. Come on, let's have some fun. And why don't we pot up some bromeliads? So today we're going to be concentrating on how to pot up your bromeliad pups. We are not going to be going into how to separate the pups. We have another video on that, and I hope you will go and take a look at it. So the first thing we're going to have to do is we are going to have to clean up the pup and get it all prepped and ready to put in the pot, and we will go right to that now. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to prep your bromeliad for planting first. And the first thing we have to do is we've got to clean it up a little bit. This is a NeoRegellia tiger. I think it's now called Scotax tiger. This was removed from the parent plant. It's a really big pup and it really needed to be removed. Ordinarily I'd try to get to it if it was about half the size, maybe a third. But what we need to do is we need to clean this up. Okay, so we're going to pull these leaves away. By the way, you should always wear gloves. I am not, so that they don't get in the way, and I can show you what we need to do. But again, wear gloves, be safe. And what we're going to do is try and tear some of this away. And these are a little recalcitrant. So what we're trying to do is make it so there's not a whole lot of biomass down there where we want to plant it. So I'm going to be cutting some of this away and trying to get this old growth off of here as much as I can. Now this is really for cleanliness as much as anything. Okay, so we got a lot of the dead off of there. I'm going to clean it up. You can see some of these old roots, and I'm going to try and trim those from around the base because they're just not going to do anything. And as you can see, that's pretty easy. Now I'm not cutting into the base of the plant here. See if I can get this back into the frame. So I'm not going to cut into the base of the plant. I'm just going to cut and try to make a clean area here. Alright, so you may be able to see I've got a bent leaf here. That's because it was growing really close to the adult plant. Sorry about the glare. I have the lights up on the deck. This is early morning here in Florida. Okay, so you can see how this is bent. I don't want this on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim some of the lower leaves off. The plant will still be okay. And I'm not going to do all of them on camera, but as you can see, we're going to do that and clean that up a little bit there. And we're going to continue all the way around the plant. Okay, so you can see that we've cleaned up around the base of the plant and we've trimmed some of those roots that were growing up. This is really what I would like to achieve so that that part of the meristem can be seen when we plant it. That would give a help. And I'm not going to trim any of these old roots off, even though they probably will not branch and regenerate. Probably they will help to hold this plant up in the pot. This is a larger plant. It's going to have to go in a larger pot. I'm going to show you that in a second. But in general, you want to take a look. Remember we talked on the other Neo about where we want to plant it. This is not all that straightforward, but you can see I don't want to bury it up to here. because now you can almost see where the leaves, see if I go like that. Okay, so that means there's a gap in there between the rest of the rosette and that leaf. You don't want it up there. So if you press down in here where my thumb is, it's very, very firm, and that is part of the meristem. And we'll bring it over here, and if you feel that, fine, but see where my hands are up there? You don't want to put it up here. Okay, so here's how you kind of gauge it, and you can actually take your shears and figure out how far down into the pot you want to go with your mix, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, so this is a 9-inch pot. I call them cans. Let me see if I can get this out here. Okay, so you can see that this, here's my hand. That's not a small pot, but that's not a small plant, and it does need to go in a larger pot. And you can see that I have not filled the pot up, but I think it needs to come up a little bit more. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to bring it closer up here, and remember where I was on the measurement with the shears, and just about where the shears are bolted together. I'm going to bring this a little closer here. So I want my plant up there, so I'm going to have to fill in this area here. You can see that's where I want it, and the tip is where I want the level of my potting mix to come up to. And look, this is not rocket science, honestly. You just play with it. You know, get an average. Average works really, really well. As long as you don't bury the plant, your bromeliads will do just fine. Now this may be a little high. I don't think it's that low. I'd rather have it a little bit higher. Now again, we went into potting mix. This is really, really airy. This is what I just had up here on the deck, and I use that for potting up my aeroids. It will work just fine for bromeliads. So as you can see right here, see the tip? So that's pretty much where I want that to be, give or take. I mean, it can be off maybe half an inch or so. It doesn't really matter. Again, this is not exact. Okay, so this is what you do. You put it in there and just give it a test. And here's the top of the pot. Here's my finger. And you know what? I don't want the soil up to here, so I'm going to add a little bit more mix to it. All right, I'm going to tamp this down. We're going to give it another try. Okay, so we put the bromeliad in there, and I think this is going to do it. Again, my finger is right at the top of the pot, and you can see it's not up here, so we're right down here at the meristem, and I would say that is near perfect. Now you may be able to see what I've done. I put the bromeliad on top of the mix. We checked our depth in here. I've also added 3 supports. There's one in back, and here are 2 on the sides. They're in a triangle, and I found that this works really, really well, so that I can have both hands free and don't have to hold the plant upright. Now I'm going to leave these stakes in the pot until this plant roots, and that way it's not going to rock back and forth, and those roots will help to anchor it in our substrate in the pot. And now that our Neo is where we want it, I'm adding more mix and spreading that around. I'm going to come back here and put it in. And we're just going to come over here. I'm going to lift this leaf up and pour more mix in there. Now this mix is something that I've used for my aeroids. It will work just fine for this. And what I'm doing is gently tamping this down. Now, that's not a problem for this plant right now because it is staked and it's okay to do that. And I'm going to pull back on the camera. You can see now we are up to the line and we are right where we want to be on the meristem of that plant. I would call this to be Goldilocks. Not too high, not too low with the potting mix, and right down in here is where you want to be. This is another NeoRegellia, and I'm not really sure what this is. I think it has Chloristica in it and maybe some Victoria's Secret. This is going to be a little bit easier to see, so we're going to do essentially the same thing. And some of the lower leaves like this, as you can see, that's not a big leaf, and I'm going to peel that away so that it exposes part of the lower part of the plant. That's back where the meristem is, and that can be a root initiation zone. And we're just going to clean that up and pull those leaves off of there. And you can see that it leaves this white knuckle, and you can actually rub your finger over it and you can feel dormant root nubs in there. Now I'm not really going to trim any of the root system off of this because I want, let me clear this back so you can see it a little bit better. I want this area right here when I put it in the pot to assist holding the plant straight up and down. So there's a certain depth to plant this, so we need to resist the urge to make everything as tidy as we think it ought to be. So I'm going to leave this part of the stem. This was a stolon that this grew out on. Okay, so I have the pot and it's got a potting mix in it. We've already gone into that in another video, so I hope you will look at that. And the pot is about appropriate for the size of the plant. You always want to make sure you do that. There's no real good rule of thumb, but you get the idea. You don't want a real large plant in here, and this might be a little big for, say, a mini bromeliad. So anyway, all we do, you can see the end that is there on the bottom of the plant. That was an old stolon that this pup came out on. And what we're going to do is, for this plant, I'm just going to make a pocket in here. And maybe you can see that I made a hole there. And I made it lengthwise, not just round, because I do want that stolon to go in there. And then what we do is we just take and put the plant in. Now, I don't want to go too much further than right here with the soil line. If your potting mix is a good potting mix, that should not be a problem if you make a small mistake. But let me get I want to tamp this down. You'll be able to see the depth at which I planted this, and that's what you want to do with all your bromeliads. Now, this, I'm going to take that stem and I'm going to push it into some of the firmer part of the pot. And it's sitting up straight now, but I'm going to show you another little bit of a trick. So as you can see, it's sitting up straight. Now, watering this is going to firm it up very, very well. It will help to compact a little bit the substrate that you have in there, and that plant should be just fine, and then it'll grow and give you more plants. Well, okay guys, that's it. I'm sure you can see that this is really, really easy to learn how to pot up your bromeliads. So no matter where you are, I hope your sun is shining. I hope you have an island breeze blowing. I know that you need to keep growing, have some fun. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.